Good afternoon, all. Today's lecture topic is skin. I will start my lecture once all of you can confirm that you can hear me clearly. Kindly confirm me if you can hear me clearly. Okay, let us start. Our today's topic is skin, and at the end of the lecture, you will be able to understand what is skin, its basic structure. You will be able to understand the functions of skin. You will be able to understand the different layers of the skin, the number of layers, and the different types of shape of the cells present in the skin and their functions. You will be able to differentiate between the thick skin and thin skin, and you will be able to describe the structures present in the skin and the skin appendages. I hope at the end of the lecture, you will be able to understand all these points. So let us start with our topic, that is the skin. First of all, what are the basic functions of the skin and where do I see skin in my body? Skin is the largest organ of the body and it has the function basically in protection, in regulation of body temperature, in the sensory information, and excretion of sweat. These are the four basic functions of the skin. And at the end of the lecture, as we move further, you will understand what are the different types of cells and what are the different layers which will help the skin to perform this function by their presence. So let us see the structure or the layers present in the skin. The skin is composed of basically three layers, that is the epidermis and dermis and hypodermis. But we consider basically two layers, that is epidermis and dermis is further divided into hypodermis. See, epidermis means epi means epithelium. The stratified squamous keratinized epithelium, it forms the epidermis, and the connective tissue which is present below the basement membrane, it will form the dermis. These are the two basic layers of skin. Here, see in the photograph which I have placed on your right hand side. See, if we start from the top, I have put the arrows. See clearly, can you see clearly? The first area which is marked with the green arrow, that is the area of epidermis. Where I am showing you the pointer now, it is the basement membrane, and just below the basement membrane is the dermis. Dermis means the connective tissue. That means the area above the basement membrane is epidermis, and the area below the basement membrane is the dermis. And as we move deeper, you can see the blue arrow. As we move the deeper part of the connective tissue, which is composed of adipose tissue. You can see here in the pictorial presentation, it is showing the adipose tissue. This area is called as hypodermis. That means basically two layers, that is epidermis and dermis, and the deeper part of dermis is called as hypodermis. I hope this is clear. See here in the pictorial presentation, this is the surface layer of the skin, and these which where I am showing you the pointer are the hair follicles or the hair coming out of the hair follicles, and you can see the different glands present in the skin which we will study in the further slides. So this area from top to the basement membrane is the epidermis. From basement membrane down deep is the dermis, and the deeper part of dermis is hypodermis, which is composed of adipose tissue. The characteristic of epidermis is it grows continuously. That means there is constant formation of surface epithelium because it is a constant process and they keep on forming and shedding. This is a continuous process. Whereas the connective tissue, that is the dermis, it provides the mechanical support. These are the different functions provided by the epidermis and dermis. Okay. Similarly, Now let us see the next slide, in which I am showing you the H&E stain section, where the different layers will be clear. Epidermis and dermis, two basic layers. See from where I am showing you the pointer is the basement membrane. Can you make out clearly? That is the basement membrane, and the area above the basement membrane is epidermis, and the area where I am putting the pointer, that is the basement membrane, down is the dermis, and here where I am showing you the pointer, from here down is the adipose tissue, so that area is hypodermis. Now you know that this area, this is the fat cells, that is the adipocytes, so this area is hypodermis. So you can see clearly the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. These are the three different layers, basically two, epidermis and dermis, and the deeper part of dermis is hypodermis. I hope this is clear. So let us go to the next slide. See here, I have put the pictorial presentation to make you understand the clear picture of dermis and epidermis. See the black area where I am showing you the pointer is the basement membrane. So the area above the basement membrane is epidermis, composed of epidermal cells, and the area which is present from basement membrane below is called as dermis and is composed of the dermal cell. Now I hope this is clear. I hope this is very clear. Now let us go to the next slide. See here, now the basic idea of skin is clear, that it is composed of two layers, epidermis and dermis. Now we will see the different layers which are present in the epidermis. That is the top layer, that is the epithelium. It is composed of morphologically 5 distinct zones. They are starting from the inner surface. That means starting from the basement membrane till the superficial layer, that is the top. They are the 5 different zones. See here in the pictorial presentation, where I am showing you the pointer is the basement membrane, and we will start the 5 layers starting from the basement membrane moving towards the surface of the skin. So the layer which is present at the basement membrane is called as stratum basilae. See here in the figure, the same is written in the written matter, so focus on the pictorial presentation. The layer which is present on the basement membrane is the basal cell layer, or called as stratum basilae. The next layer, which is above the basal cell layer, it is composed of 3 to 5 cell layers, and it is called as Pickel cell layer, and the name is stratum spinosum. This is the second name. The second layer is stratum spinosum. The third layer, that is around 2 to 3 cell layer thick, you can make out the number of layers, that is called as stratum granulosum. Why? Because here they are keratohyaline granules are present in these cells. So due to the presence of keratohyaline granules, this layer is called as stratum granulosum. This is the third layer starting from the base. The fourth layer, that is the shiny layer. Here you can see it is a clear layer, that is called as stratum lucidum. And the topmost layer is called as a stratum corneum. See here where I am showing you the pointer, this is the topmost layer out of the 5 layers, that is the stratum corneum. So starting from the basement membrane moving towards the surface of the skin, stratum basilae, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and the stratum corneum. These are the 5 different layers present in the epidermis of the skin. This was the pictorial presentation of different layers of the skin. Now let us see under the hematoxylin and eosin stain. See, this is the hematoxylin and eosin stain section, which is showing you the different layers of the skin. Basically 2 layers. See from where I am showing you the pointer, that is the basement membrane. Above the basement membrane is the epidermis, and below the basement membrane is the dermis. Okay, now let us see the different layers present in the epidermis. So the layer which is present at the Basement membrane is the stratum bacilli. The layer above the bacilli is stratum spinosum. The third layer is stratum granulosum. You can make out the granules here. Okay. And the fourth layer, which is appearing little clear or translucent, is the stratum lucidum. And the topmost layer is the stratum corneum. These are the 5 layers starting from the basement membrane up to the surface of the skin. I hope now these 5 layers of the epidermis are clear. Okay, let us move to the next slide. See here, I have put both the H&E stain section and the pictorial presentation together to make you understand the different layers of the skin. See, basically, see where I am showing you the pointer in the H&E stain section. This is from basement membrane up to the top is epidermis. From basement membrane down is the dermis. Now let us see the different layers of epidermis. See, along with the H&E section, focus on the pictorial presentation also, so that you will understand the different cell layers. See, the first cell layer is which is present on the basement membrane is the stratum bacilli. You can see clearly the tall columnar cells, and they have the sensory nerve endings. The second layer above the bacilli is stratum spinosum, which is around 3 to 5 cell layer thick, and it is composed of different cells, and along with that they have the dendritic cells. The third layer, that is the stratum granulosum. You can see clearly here around 2 to 3 layer thick. It is the stratum granulosum and having the keratohyaline granules. The fourth layer is stratum lucidum, which is appearing little translucent, and the topmost layer is the stratum corneum at the top. So these are the 5 different layers of epidermis, starting from the basement membrane moving towards the top of the skin. I hope now it is very clear, the different 5 layers of the epidermis. Okay. The epidermis, now we will see individual layers, the functions of individual layer and the different types of cells present in the individual layer. The first layer is stratum bacilli. As you all know now that the stratum bacilli is the layer which is present at the basement membrane. See here in the pictorial presentation, here the red appearing, the area marked with red is the basement membrane, and the area I have put the green pointer is the stratum bacilli. Looking at the pictorial presentation, you can tell me clearly that it is a single layer of cells which are tall columnar. Is it clear in the pictorial presentation? Yes, then this is the characteristically present on the basement membrane. To make you understand more clearly, on your right hand side, I have put only the picture of the basal cell layer, where you can see the cellular details. See, the cells are tall columnar and they are having the large nucleus. Then on the basal surface, they have the hemidesmosomes, whereas in between the cells, they have the desmosome. The desmosomes and hemidesmosomes, they are the attachment molecules. At the basement membrane or at the basal cell layer or at the basal surface area, they have hemidesmosome, whereas in between the cells, they have the desmosome as the attachment molecules. This layer is also called as stratum germinativum because the cells in this layer are constantly dividing and they are providing the keratinocytes. They are giving rise to the keratinocytes. They also contain the melanin which is produced by the melanocytes. Melanin is the skin pigmentation which we all have, and they have 2 types of attachment molecules, the desmosomes and hemidesmosome. I hope this layer is clear. Let us see the next layer. The next layer is stratum spinosum. See here in the pictorial presentation first. As you can make out clearly, it is 3 to 5 cell layer thick and it contains the cytoplasmic processes and it has desmosomes. Can you see on your right hand side, I have put the single cell to make you understand the individual cell in the stratum spinosum. You can make out on all the sides it has the attachment molecule in the form of desmosome. Then moreover, it is the cuboidal cells and it contain the different keratin intermediary filaments. Okay, this is the typical presentation of the individual cell of stratum spinosum. This is how it will be present, around 3 to 5 cell layer thick, composed of cytoplasmic processes and have desmosomes all around. This is the second layer of epidermis. Let us see the next layer, that is the stratum granulosum. This is the third layer starting from the basal cell layer. The third layer, that is the stratum granulosum. It is around 1 to 3 cell layer thick and it is composed of keratohyaline granules. That is why the name is granulosum. Here on right hand side, the pictorial presentation, can you make out the individual cell? It has the desmosomes all around and it is having the keratohyaline granules inside the cell. That is why the name is stratum granulosum. I hope this is clear. And this keratohyaline granule, this is the granule, or it contains a protein which is associated with the formation of keratin filaments. I hope this is clear. Let us go to the next layer of the epidermis, that is the fourth layer, that is stratum lucidum. This is present only in case of thick skin and it is absent in case of thin skin. It will be clear in the further slide, the difference between the thick skin and thin skin and where do we get all this. So it is present only in cases of thick skin and it has the cells which are advanced in the keratinization process. So this is the fourth layer from the stratum basale. It is the fourth layer and present only in cases of thick skin. This is the fourth layer. Now let us see the fifth layer. That is the topmost layer, also called as stratum corneum. See here in the pictorial presentation where I have put the green pointer. This is the stratum corneum, the topmost layer of the epidermis. It is the superficial keratinized layer and its cells are filled with keratin and they are flattened and unnucleated. You cannot see any nucleus in this cell like the other layers, and that is why it is called as unnucleated flattened cells. And this is the topmost layer and the cells are filled with keratin and it is the most differentiated layer of the epidermis. See here in the pictorial presentation on your left hand side, these are the individual cells of the stratum corneum. You can see the cells are flat and they are filled with the keratin and they are unnucleated. This is the characteristic feature of the stratum corneum. Now I hope the 5 layers of the epidermis are clear. So this is the another slide. See, this is the schematic presentation of all 5 layers. See, let us start with the first, that is the stratum basale. You can see clearly the stratum basale. It is located at the basement membrane and it is a single layer of cell. This is the cells are tall columnar and having the nucleus and they are attached on one end with the basement membrane. The second layer is the stratum spinosum. You can make out the cells are around 3 to 5 layer thick. From the second layer, that is the stratum spinosum, the cells are 3 to 5 cell layer thick and they are almost cuboidal in shape. The third layer, that is the stratum granulosum. You can make out it is 1 to 3 layer and it is composed of the keratohyaline granules. Okay, and you can see it is clearly 1 to 3 layer thick. Stratum lucidum may be present, may be absent, present only in case of thick skin, whereas it is absent in cases of thin skin. The fifth layer, that is the stratum corneum, that is the topmost layer. It is the cell layer having the flat cells which are filled with the keratin. They do not have the nucleus. So the layers can vary from thin skin to thick skin. Either it can be 4 layers if the stratum lucidum is absent in cases of thin skin, or it can be 5 layers when we have thick skin which is composed of stratum lucidum also. So I hope these layers of the skin are very clear, starting from the basilae up to the corneum. These are the 5 layers of the skin. That is the epidermis of the skin. Let us go to the next slide. Now let us talk about the different types of cells present in the epidermis. The stratified squamous keratinized epithelium of skin is composed of 4 populations of the cell. They are basically divided into 2 categories, that is non-keratinocytes and keratinocytes. The non-keratinocytes, they include Langhans cell, Merkel cell, melanocytes, and the keratinocytes, which are the cells they present in the basal cell layer, and as they mature they move at the top and then shed off. This is the process of keratinization. You must have read in oral biology also. They start from the basal cell layer and they move at the top. They are the keratinocytes. Other than the keratinocytes, we have 3 non-keratinocytes, that is the Langhans cells, Merkel cell, and melanocytes. So you should know the types of cells present in is keratinocytes and non-keratinocytes, and under non-keratinocytes only 3 cells are there. That is the Langhans cells, Merkel cell, and melanocyte. I hope this is clear. So let us go to the next slide. See, first is the keratinocytes. Keratinocytes, they form almost 90% of the population of the epidermis. That means the 90% cells of the epidermis are keratinocytes. Keratinocytes means these are the normal cells which are present. They are the keratinocytes. The basic function of these keratinocytes is to produce the keratin, and they are anchored by the desmosomes. We have seen in the previous slides the cells, individual cells, they are attached to one another by desmosomes. I hope this is clear. That means the keratinocytes forms the 90% population of the cells in epidermis, and they produces keratin, and they are attached to one another by desmosomes. Is it clear? Okay. See here, the next layer, the next type of cells, they are the non-keratinocytes. In that, the first is melanocytes. They form around 8% of the population of the cells of epidermis. They produce melanin, which is a brown-black pigment and which contributes for the skin coloration, and it protects the nucleus against UV radiation. This is the basic function of melanocyte, that they produces melanin, and this melanin pigment is responsible for the skin coloration which we all have. Melanin mostly in the epidermis, and it is lacking in albinos. Albinos, it is a disease in which this melanin pigment is absent. You must have seen the people who appear whitish, and the skin of these people, it becomes red when it is exposed to sunlight. These people are called as albinos, and they lack the melanin pigment. See here in the pictorial presentation, there I have put the green pointer. This is the melanocyte. It is the cell which is present as melanocyte, and as you can see the orange color, that those are the melanin granules present in the layers of epidermis. This is the second cell in the epidermis and the first cell in the non-keratinocyte. I hope this is clear. The next type of cell is Langhans cell. It is also a non-keratinocyte. It arises in the bone marrow and migrate to the epidermis. That means the origin of Langerhans cell is in the bone marrow, but they are migrated to the epidermis. The basic function of Langhans cell is the antigen presenting cell. That means the defense cell. You can see the pink color pointer I have put. This is the Langhans cells. Basically, these cells, they interact with helper T cells and help in the immune mechanism of the skin. This is how it will function. So the second non-keratinocyte is the Langhans cell. Now let us see the next, that is Merkel cell. This is the third cell of non-keratinocyte, that is the Merkel cell. They are located in the stratum basilae of the hairless skin. See here where I have put the green pointer, that is the Merkel cell, and characteristically they are present in the hairless skin. So where do I get the hairless skin in the body? Either on the palm of the hand and on the soles of the foot. These are the two sites where we do not have the hair, and these are the cells, Merkel cells. These are present at these locations. It is these cells, here you can see in the pictorial presentation, these cells, can you make out this? The sensory nerve, and this Merkel cell is located on the sensory nerve ending. So they are in contact with the nerve endings, and they have the role in the sensation of touch. That is why if something touches, you will understand it immediately. These are the cells which are responsible for the sensation of touch. This is how it will present. This is the third cell in non-keratinocyte. See in this slide, the next slide, I have put in together all the cells present in the epidermis along with the layers. Here you can see the 5 layers of the epidermis, that is stratum basilae, spinosum, granulosum, and corneum. Lucidum is absent here. Okay, thin skin, that is why lucidum is absent. Then the different cells which we studied in the epidermis, 90% population is keratinocyte, and other 3 are under the category of non-keratinocytes, that is melanocytes, Merkel cell, and Langerhans cell. So I hope the layers of the epidermis are clear and the different cells which are present in the epidermis are clear. Now let us see the dermis. That is the connective tissue part which is present below the basement membrane. Thick layer of connective tissue. It is formed of 2 layers, that is the papillary layer and reticular layer. See here in the pictorial presentation, this is the, where I am showing you the pointer, is the basement membrane. If you pull it upward, you can see the projections. These projections are called as papillae. Like we see the tongue papillae, similarly these projections upward, they are fitted in the downward growths of the epithelium. So these upward projections are called as dermal papillae, and the deeper part is called as the reticular layer. That means there are 2 layers, that is the papillary layer, and the deeper part is the reticular layer. I hope the 2 parts of the dermis are clear, dermal papillae and the reticular layer. Let us see the next slide, which will be more clear. See here, I have put the H&E stain section of the skin, where you can see, this is the, where I am showing you the pointer, is the basement membrane. Above the basement membrane is the epidermis, and now see the 2 parts of dermis. Where I am showing you the pointer is the papillary dermis. These are the growths of connective tissue going inside the epithelium. So that is why called as the papillary dermis, and the deeper part is the reticular dermis. Their papillary layer is basically composed of loose and rich connective tissue. It will have the capillary or the blood supply, and they have less of the fine collagen fibers. That means more of vascularity and less of the collagen fiber. Whereas if we see the next slide, that is the reticular layer, it is the deeper part. So it is a denser and fewer cells. The number of cells are less, and it will have more number of collagen fiber bundles. So the difference between the papillary and reticular dermis, papillary dermis is composed of more of vascular supply and less of collagen fibers, whereas reticular dermis is composed of more of collagen fiber and less of blood supply. This is the basic difference. I hope these 2 layers are clear now, the papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. See here, the next slide. Here I am showing you the difference between the thick skin and thin skin. On your left hand side is the thin skin. whereas on your right hand side is the thick skin. See here, focus on the left hand side. See here, where I am showing you the pointer is the basement membrane and above it is the epidermis. If you go down, this is the dermis, papillary layer, and the deeper part where I am showing you the pointer now is the reticular layer. These are the two layers of dermis. I hope this is clear. Now let us go to the next. That is the difference between the thick skin and thin skin. Not the difference, the characteristic features. The thick skin is the hairless skin and the thin skin is the hairy skin. The thick skin, it is present in the palms and soles and it has the thick epidermis. That means the epidermis is thick in cases of thick skin and it is hairless. Whereas when we talk about the thin skin, it is present everywhere else in the body and it has a thinner epidermis and it has hair. You can see in the pictorial presentation, see clearly, the epidermis is thick in cases of thick skin, whereas the epidermis is thin in cases of thin skin. And you can see the hair follicle and the growth of hair in cases of thin skin, which is absent in thick skin. This is the basic difference, structural difference between the thick skin and thin skin. So let us see the characteristic differentiation between the thick skin and thin skin. See, in the tabular form, it will be easy for you to understand. The first is the thin skin and thick skin. Epidermis, it will be thin in cases of thin skin, whereas it will be thick in cases of thick skin. Stratum lucidum, not present in thin skin, whereas it is present in cases of thick skin. Stratum granulosum, the thin skin, it will have 2 to 3 layers, whereas in thick skin, it will be 3 to 5 cell layer thick. Stratum spinosum, it will be thin in cases of thin skin, whereas thick in cases of thick skin. Dermal papillae, fewer, lower and broader in case of thin, whereas more and higher and narrower in cases of thick skin. Hair follicle and hair present in thin skin, whereas absent in thick skin. Whereas sebaceous glands and apocrine sweat glands and eccrine sweat glands, they are present in cases of thin skin, whereas absent in cases of thick skin. Whereas the eccrine sweat glands, they are more abundant in cases of thick skin. These are the basic characteristic differences between the thick skin and thin skin. I hope these differences are clear to you. Now let us see the pictorial presentation. On the right hand side is the thin skin, whereas on the left hand side is the thick skin. You can clearly make out can you see the basement membrane on your left hand side? And from basement membrane above is the epidermis. You can see the epidermis is too thick. Whereas if you see on the right hand side, where I am showing you the pointer, is the basement membrane and the epidermis is very thin. This is the basic difference which is seen in the histopathology. Now let us see the characteristic structures present in the skin. These are the Meissner's corpuscles, also called as the nerve endings. You can see in the pictorial presentation where I have put the pictorial presentation. That is the tactile corpuscle or the Meissner's corpuscle. They are the nerve endings which are responsible for the touch receptor and they are present in the dermal papillae. That is just below the basal lamina or the basement membrane. Here I have put the pointer. This is the area where we can see the Meissner's corpuscle and it is the pictorial presentation of Meissner's corpuscle and they are responsible for the touch receptor. I hope this is clear. The next is the Pacinian corpuscle. You can see here where I have put the pointer on your right hand side. That is Pacinian corpuscle. They are the ovoid structures present in the deeper part of the dermis, that is the hypodermis. You know the deeper part of dermis is hypodermis. They are present in the hypodermis and they are responsible for the pressure and vibration. You can see the pictorial presentation I have put, that is the Pacinian corpuscle and this is the H&E stain section of Pacinian corpuscle, and they are responsible for pressure and vibration. These are the two different structures which are present in the skin. Let us go to the next. That is the accessory structures or skin appendages. If anybody asks you the skin appendages, there are three: the glands, the hair follicle, and the nape. These are the skin appendages. They are basically derived from the epidermis and invade the dermis and hypodermis. That means they are ectodermal in origin. The skin appendages, they are ectodermal in origin, but they are embedded in the dermis and hypodermis. So what are the different skin appendages? They are the glands of the skin that include the sebaceous gland and sweat gland, then the hair and the hair follicle, and the nails. These are the skin appendages which are present in the skin. See here in the pictorial presentation, you can see this is the topmost layer of the skin. This is the sweat gland. This is the duct of a sweat gland. Then if you go here, this is the hair follicle. And from inside the hair follicle, this is the hair coming out of the hair follicle. Now the next is sebaceous gland, the yellow colored. You can see these are the sebaceous glands which is releasing the sebum on the surface of the skin. And in the next pictorial presentation, you can see clearly this is a nail. So the skin appendages, they include three parts, that is the glands of the skin, that is sebaceous glands, sweat glands, hair and hair follicle, and nails. These are the skin appendages. Now the glands of the skin, there are two types of sweat glands present in the skin, that is the eccrine sweat glands and apocrine sweat glands. See here in the pictorial presentation, the eccrine sweat glands with the small pointer, and the larger pointer is apocrine sweat glands. I will explain you in detail individually. See, eccrine sweat glands, they are not associated with hair follicle, and their duct segment is less coiled and leads to the epidermis, and their secretion, they are secretory segments present in the deep dermis or in the hypodermis. See, this is the presentation of the eccrine sweat gland. See here, they are more coiled and they are leading to the, they are less coiled and they are leading to the secretion at the surface of the epidermis. See here, coiled gland, then they are present in the deeper part of the dermis and they leave the secretion at the surface of the skin. This is the eccrine sweat gland. Next is the apocrine sweat glands. They are found in the axilla and pubic region and they empty into the hair follicle. See here, where I have put the pink pointer, they are the apocrine sweat glands and they are releasing their secretion inside the hair follicle. This is the difference. And the location is in the axilla and the pubic region. See in the pictorial presentation, they are releasing their secretion into the hair follicle rather than on the surface of the skin. The next, skin appendages and hair follicles. Here are found over most of the body parts except the palm, sole, lips, glans, penis, clitoria and labia minora. Each hair arises from the epidermal invagination into the dermis called as hair follicle, and they consist of the shaft which projects out of the surface, and they have the root which is embedded inside the hair follicle. You can see here, and the expanded lower end of the hair is called as hair bulb. It is deeply intended in the dermal papillae and contains the capillaries. And here, see, if you see the pictorial presentation, this is the, where I am showing you the pointer, is the blood capillary, and adjacent to it is the hair follicle, in which you can see the root of the hair. Then this is the hair follicle having the root of the hair, and this is the hair shaft. I hope this is clear, the location and the presence of hair and hair follicle. Let us go to the next slide, that is the nail. Nail are composed of nail plate, eponychium, nail root, nail matrix, lunula and free edge. See here in the pictorial presentation, You can see this is the free edge of the nail, this is the body of the nail, then this is the cuticle, the base. Okay, this is the lateral border or the lateral fold of the nail. This is how it will appear. This is the details of the parts of the nail which are present in our body. I hope this is clear. And basically, if you see the second pictorial presentation, it is showing you the phalanx, that is the bone of the finger, and this is the hyponychium, the base of the nail, root of the nail. See here. So basically the nail is composed of these parts. If you remember the free edge of the nail, the body of the nail, hyponychium, then the lateral end of the nail, these are enough. This comes under the category of the different skin appendages which are present in our body. This is all about the skin. I hope this is very clear to you. That in detail we have seen today in the topic of skin, the functions of skin, different layers of the skin, which included epidermis and dermis, and dermis is further divided into dermis and hypodermis. Then we saw different layers of epidermis, the 5 layers. Then we saw different layers of dermis, that is papillary and reticular dermis. These were the 2 parts of the dermis. Then we saw the difference between the thick skin and thin skin. Okay. Then we saw the different structures of the skin, that is the characteristic structures, that is the nerve endings in the form of Meissner's corpuscles and Pacinian corpuscles, which were present in the dermis. Then we saw the accessory structure or the skin appendages. There were 3 skin appendages present in the skin, that is the glands of the skin, which included sebaceous gland and sweat gland, hair follicle and hair, and the nail. These were the skin appendages which we saw in detail. I hope this topic is clear. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Thank you.